And hello, what's up, everyone? Welcome to this MavCast on Fun Speculation here on YouTube. Everybody that watches our content is absolutely amazing. Appreciate each and every one of you guys or gals, whoever you are out there. Thanks for being here. And yeah, this is an interesting day. We knew that this day was coming for a long time. We thought that well, for a long time, there was some that didn't think this was real. There was some that were saying, hey, the PS5 Pro is fake. It's not going to actually happen. It's not going to exist. All this other stuff. There was too much smoke out there for me. I thought that this thing was real from the get-go. It was something that I thought they were probably going to do this generation anyway. Early on in this generation, we speculated that is PlayStation going to do these mid-gen refreshes? A lot of people said, no, they don't need to. They're still up. They haven't taken advantage of all the stuff for these consoles yet, and all these things. And, I was always kind of on the board, like, hey, I'm down for it, right? But there's interesting things happened this gen as well because of the economy, the way the world's been, inflation. You had the whole pandemic, all this other kind of crazy stuff that happened. The usual trends haven't happened where prices decrease over a generation. Also, maybe it's just because the platform holders don't want to do that anymore, right? Nintendo hasn't even dropped the price of their console, which is like insanity for what you're paying for on that handheld. But overall, this has been an interesting generation, very different, and it kind of puts things into a little bit of different perspective. And we're going to look at the actual PS5 reveal, the reaction. We have some reactions to the price, what it actually comes with. Is it justified? Who is it for? Are you interested in it? Is it going to replace your PlayStation? Are the developers actually going to be able to take advantage of it enough to make it worth it? There's a lot of ways to look at this device that is ultimately extremely expensive for a console, and kind of just react to it and say, like, what is it? Who is it for? And is it justified existing? That's kind of really the overall thought process here. And what I want to know basically in the chat, like, is it for you? Is the PS5 Pro something that you're interested in? Is it something that is going to be something you got to get day one? Is it something you're going to sit on and wait to see, like, how much advantage is it actually taking of the console for the developers and the games? I'm curious also, like, how does this affect Xbox? Does it affect Xbox at all? I saw a lot of blame actually being thrown at Xbox today for the price of the PlayStation 5 Pro, which I think is absolutely unjustified and kind of crazy as well. And we'll talk about that too, because everybody is like, well, this is what happens when you have no competition in the console space. And kind of like, well, I mean, this is kind of just PlayStation doing PlayStation, right? Like, this is what they've been doing all generation, and that really hasn't changed, right? And this is kind of just the way that the gaming industry is now, I think. So we'll take a look at it. Yeah, like Oates said, it's the Series S's fault. Everybody will find a way to blame the Series S. I will talk about the actual benefit of this, though. I think, like, especially if you're a PlayStation gamer, and ways it might help you if you do decide to buy a PS5 Pro. What kind of benefit are you going to get? I want to talk about that too, because I actually think it will run the games very, very well. And if you're a console gamer and you've been frustrated at the performance of games this generation, if you've been frustrated at games struggling to hit 60 or have lower resolutions and all that kind of stuff to hit it. Sorry, I'm messing with my mic here. Then I want to talk about, like, the benefits that you're actually going to get with it. And even though it might be kind of marginal, maybe it's something that is going to just kind of smooth things out for some and be the best version of PlayStation consoles to own if you're willing to spend the money for it. It comes with a heavy price tag. But yeah, shout out to the chat. Thanks everybody for joining. Boomer Benz says Sony yanked it out in broad daylight. Xbox had nothing to do with it. Yeah, that's definitely what I think as well. Connor Garrity, what's up? Connor says Xbox done the console correctly, not have games go to PS5. Sony wouldn't get away with it. Yeah. Jax82 says they didn't sell me on the Pro. Looks the same from what they showed. No big change from what I'm getting from the base model. Yeah, the interesting thing is the marketing aspect was like the same marketing as pretty much the consoles both Xbox and PS5 had before launch of those consoles. Smoother frame rates, higher resolutions, more fidelity. And now it's like the developers asked for more, so we have smoother frame rates, higher resolution, and more fidelity. That's pretty much the same kind of talking points. Froggy T White, what's up? Spend $700 on a PC. I don't know if you could spend $700 on a PC and get the same level, maybe close to. I saw people putting PCs out there that they did that are kind of like their builds of like $1,000 to $1,300 or whatever. But you also get a lot more use out of a PC than a gaming console. But also, PC isn't for everybody. Some people just like to play on a couch and put a fucking console on a TV, and it's a lot simpler and easier, and that's just how they game, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And is this deliver that level of experience that you may get from a mid-range PC with being able to only spend $700 as opposed to $1,200 if that's how you game? That's who this is for, really. It's for that enthusiast gamer, that console gamer that doesn't want to game on PC, that doesn't want to switch on PC. They're into PlayStation a lot. They don't want to wait for the games to go to PC. And they're saying, well, it's worth it for me to get the best bang for my buck. Like, if this was Xbox, I'll be honest. If this was Xbox and they had the same thing, I would be day one. I would. I wouldn't even fucking bat an eye. If I had to, I would trade in 2 of my Xboxes to get one of those because I want to play the games at the best they can be played, right? I'm just not as interested into the PlayStation ecosystem, and that was what was mainly missing. That was what was mainly fucking missing here. And that's the interesting thing is like, and I want to get into that too, because holy shit, like where the fuck are the actual games to like really promote this thing with about like the future of PlayStation? And that's absolutely crazy, right? Like I saw a lot of people at Truthstream says Series X established at 2 terabyte is 600. Right, but also the Series X has a disk that's 2 terabyte. Series X has a disk drive in it too, right? So if you had like if you take the disk drive out, maybe they sell it for $520 because they're like PlayStation is charging $80 for the disk drive, or maybe they're Xbox able to sell it for a little bit more than just the regular Series X. I'm not sure what they would sell it, but you can't overestimate the value of the disk drive there on that 2 terabyte Series X at 600 as opposed to the PS5 Pro that's a digital only at 2 terabyte. That's like comparing the PS5. If you compare the PS5 digital to the PS5 Pro, you have a larger price difference there. So that was interesting. Again, like it fits in with our predictions. We were all saying 600, 650, anticipating 1 terabyte. If it was 2 terabyte, a couple episodes of, I think it was FSP or maybe Xbox Ultimate, and when people were saying 2 terabyte, well, let's say probably $700 if it's 2 terabyte. Because those SSDs are fucking expensive. So yeah, but if this was an Xbox, I'd probably be day one. I'm not gonna lie, right? Because I'm looking at Avowed, I'm looking at Starfield, I'm looking at Forza, Fable coming up. When Perfect Dark comes out, State of Decay comes out. All these games I'm really excited for, knowing that they would take advantage and be able to push fidelity and resolution and performance better on console, then I would be sold. And I've been saying that from the get-go. I wanted Xbox to do a mid-gen. But the difference between now and last generation is the consoles kind of got replaced by the Pro models, right? PS5 Pro or PS4 Pro came out, Xbox One X came out at like the same price that originally the Xbox One and the PS4 were. So as the original consoles were getting price decreases, the Pro models came out later, and they're able to offer them for like around the same price as what the original consoles had launched at years before. This is different now because there's been no decreases in pricing. In fact, there's only been increases in pricing for consoles this generation. So now if you have a Pro model, it's actually even above and beyond that, which makes it even more expensive. And like mid-gen refreshes, back then when we first started talking this generation, we anticipated a normal cycle, maybe in a few years, like it decreases and decreases, and then new Pro models come out and they kind of replace the pricing. And it makes sense if you go to a store and 4 or 5 years after original consoles came out and spend the same amount of money to get better than you did 4 or 5 years ago. But now you actually get worse than you did 4 or 5 years ago for the same price because of the price increases. And they removed stuff from some of the consoles like the PS5 Slim did. But now you have the PS5 Pro, which is like above and beyond on the pricing. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, I think it's going to be dependent on the gamer whether it's worth it. But there's a couple things that Mark Cerny said that was interesting here that also kills a lot of narratives out there, because what PlayStation is known as more of like, hey, it's I guess every gamer console is kind of like just the go-to brand. If you are to go to a store, hey, I need to get a gaming console, play Madden, Call of Duty, whatever, FIFA. It's just kind of, hey, get a PlayStation, right? And that's just what they've ascended to with their brand recognition and everything. Xbox has a hardcore fan base and a lot of fans that love the ecosystem, but it hasn't transcended into that mainstream as much, right? So like PlayStation is kind of known as more of like, hey, it's got the hardcore gamers, but it's also like more of the casual market there as well. And what was interesting is Mark Cerny said something specific in this, is that 3 out of 4 of the gamers that are choosing the modes in these games that have the option are choosing performance mode. They're choosing 60 frames, which has been argued online and on social media and on Twitter and all these places about, oh, nobody cares. The casuals don't care. The casuals don't care about frame rates. Nobody cares about frame rates. The casuals don't care. Well, every one of the big PlayStation games has had like pretty much 3 options, right? They've had the performance, they had the like performance RT, then they have fidelity or whatever. And they're basically, what they're saying is like 3 out of 4 gamers are choosing performance, which means that people are preferring to sacrifice a little bit in fidelity or resolution to play at 60 frames because they prefer that experience. That was very interesting, and I hope the industry and the developers and all these people that are like, oh, we worry about optimization last, is taking notice of that 60 frames or performance is actually very important to gamers. So I want to let's watch this together and discuss it because there's some interesting things. I may pause here and there, kind of. I wasn't really impressed with like the, hey, comparison, look at this versus this. There wasn't a lot there, really, to be honest. There's a couple that stood out, but it was more about the 30 versus 60, which they already have those options in those games. So let's look. I think I got the right one here. Yeah, here we go. I still think this guy is a fucking doppelganger for Dana Carvey. Okay, I can't overlook it.
Hi, I'm Mark Cerny. I'm excited to be here to talk about the newest addition to our console lineup, PlayStation 5 Pro, and how it advances gaming technology. But first, I want to take just a minute to look at what we put in the original.
I'm curious real quick. Are you guys like, the fact that they just kind of released this video? Like, is this how you would have announced a new console entering your family? Is just like this drop a video on YouTube and social media and all this kind of stuff? Or do you kind of do like a show and say like, hey, check this out. Holy shit, it's a PS5 Pro and we got all these games for it, right?
Original PlayStation 5 and how it delivers an exceptional gaming experience.
Let's take a look at the PS5 and the highlights from the PS5 era so far.
When PS5 debuted
Good
in
examples
2020,
only, not bad.
it brought a lot to the table. 8 Zen 2 CPU cores form the brains of PlayStation 5 and enable high-speed, complex gameplay, with character counts reaching into the hundreds and frame rates that can be as high as 120 frames a second. PS5 has a powerful RDNA 2 GPU, which can render anything from intricate details to fantastic worlds with vast panoramas to explore. Ray tracing allows for dramatic visual improvements, including reflections off of water or glass.
Ray tracing on consoles this generation was the biggest oversell gimmick that I think ever existed around the launch of console hardware. All the talk was around ray tracing, ray tracing, ray tracing, ray tracing. And it, like, if these developers really pushed ray tracing in their games, like, they just tanked performance and basically had shitty optimization in their games and all this kind of stuff. It was just, I hated it. I hated it didn't add enough, like, fucking shinier puddles, reflections and puddles and mirrors. And this is stuff we had gotten forever. I remember playing PS2 and Xbox original games and being able to look at yourself in damn mirrors and reflections at times. It's just they're using a different method, right? Like, they're using a different method that's supposed to be way better, but this shit couldn't handle it. The consoles, they just couldn't handle it. So it was a whole gimmick, a sales approach or whatever. And now they're doing it again with the PS5 Pro, which may actually be able to deliver decent ray tracing. We'll see. I don't know. But overall, this generation, like, for consoles, ray tracing sucks ass. And also, I don't care about it. Just leave it out. Just use different proven methods for reflections and lighting that have stand the test of time. Like, nobody was complaining when they were playing Forza Horizon 5 that it didn't have ray tracing. They were just like, holy shit, this game looks amazing. And look at the reflections. Anyway.
And the realism that comes from real-time global illumination. A custom SSD can load data at breathtaking speed, resulting in ultra-fast transitions between game worlds.
As another proven gimmick, because that's shit they put on PC that has, like, hard drives.
And data streaming rates so high that traversal speeds are essentially unlimited.
You okay? I'm working on it.
Tempest 3D audio tech brings an unparalleled sense of immersion to the sound of the games.
I gotta hand it to Mark Cerny, though. He's
With
like
audio so real,
making all
you may
this
not
stuff
even
sound
need to see
so
the enemies
cool
to know exactly where they are.
Look at what PS5 Pro.
Finally, the DualSense
PS5
controller
can
has
deliver.
haptics that let you feel through your hands what your character is experiencing inside of the game. It's wonderful to see such variety and richness of game experiences. Creators have made amazing use of the hardware capabilities, but when I talk to them, I do hear about their desire for more graphics performance. The dreams of the developers are bigger than can be supported at 60 frames per second, and that leads to an aspect of modern gaming.
That's something interesting that he says right there. The dreams of developers are bigger than that can be delivered at 60 frames per second. Basically meaning what we've been saying all generation is that the developers are pushing for fidelity, even at the slightest enhancements or something that you're going to have to zoom in to see or really not really have too big of an effect in the game. They're pushing these little things with fidelity to improve the look of the games while tanking performance, and they're just preferring to do that. And that's something that 3-Bit talked about a lot early on, is that anytime that there's new stuff, the developers, they just always go for all the bells and whistles and don't really focus as much on optimization. And we even hear this from developers all the time when they're talking about their games. They like worry about optimization last. It's like they try and put everything they can and then, okay, how do we optimize this? And then they start taking things away and, you know, do all that kind of stuff to get it better optimized for the hardware. But this is going to add into why I think it's actually going to be good for the PS5 Pro. And I'll talk about that after, but ultimately, again, Mark Cerny is kind of proving what a lot of conversations have been. It's not necessarily issues with the hardware, a Series S or Series X or or PS5 or whatever. It's more about choices of developers and what they're opting for. And really, as much power as you're going to give them, they're just going to keep going for more and more. Worrying about optimization less. I think that's just ultimately something that maybe needs to change a little bit with game development processes. And you see some games that are focused on optimization more are some of the most popular ones. But anyway, let's keep going.
That we're all familiar with, graphics modes. It can be a difficult choice for players. Fidelity modes emphasize the visuals, typically through higher resolution rendering. These modes might also have enhanced detail or use more ray tracing. But the games only run at 30 frames per second. The visuals can be choppier and the controls less responsive. Performance modes emphasize frame rate and interactivity, typically choosing to run at 60 frames per second. Mainly by reducing the graphical detail until those frame rates can be achieved.
This is something last night, if you caught our show, we were like, this is it. We basically described exactly this. This is what they would be doing at this reveal today. And then honestly, if you look at the difference here between performance, ray tracing, and fidelity, this is 30 versus 60, right? Yeah, I mean, there's like a little difference, but if you're playing in motion and stuff, you're not really going to notice as much. I mean, you can say there's like a little more grass over here, and it's a little bit more sharp, right, over here. But in motion, this looks better on this side to me, right?
When asked to decide on a mode, players are choosing performance about 3/4 of the time. Removing that decision, or at least narrowing that divide, is one of the key targets for PlayStation 5 Pro. We want to give players the graphics that the game creators aspire to, at the high frame rates that players typically prefer. To do that, PS5 Pro substantially improves over PlayStation 5 in 3 ways. Here's what we call the Big Three.
The Big Three.
First, we made the GPU much larger and increased the speed of the memory it uses. The result is rendering that's up to 45% faster.
Does it come with that cool RGB?
Second, we made major upgrades to the ray tracing, taking a streamlined and accelerated approach that allows calculation of the rays at double or even triple the speeds of PlayStation 5. And finally, we added custom hardware for machine learning and an AI library called PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, or PSSR for short. PSSR analyzes the game images pixel by pixel and can add an extraordinary amount of detail, which boosts the effective resolution of the games. Game creators are adding PS5 Pro support to new and existing titles, and with the Big Three involved, the results can be pretty amazing, with graphics showing something like fidelity levels of detail, but at double the frame rate. Here's The Last of Us Part 2 running on PS5 Pro. It has huge amounts of detail and targets a super smooth 60
I like when they
frames
show
per
this
second.
at the performance mode.
Let's compare this to the fidelity
So this is
on
like
PS5.
So this is like what I was talking about before. Like always when we make our argument 60 versus 30, like the game in motion, like maybe they're exaggerating here with some things and they probably do some tricks and stuff, but overall the game in motion looks better at 60 than 30, right? But the thing is, this game already has a performance mode. So it really is a question of, does the added fidelity to the 60 make it worth purchasing, right? Not the fact that it has a performance mode. It's like the fact that you get the fidelity at the performance levels, you know, make it worth it. And that's where you look at, like, what's the difference in the actual fidelity? And if you actually look at the image here paused, fidelity versus performance, I look for, okay, what am I getting as an enhancement there in the fidelity? And for me, I don't see, in most games, performance versus fidelity mode, I don't see enough difference in the fidelity versus performance to justify the 30 frames. And I don't know if I would see enough to justify an extra couple $100 or $200. How much more is it than how much is the PS5 Digital Slim right now, guys? Is it 400? Is it $399 or is it $449? What's the price on it right now? Because that's ultimately what you have to compare the pricing to for the PS5 Pro.
Which is only running at 30 frames per second and is therefore much choppier.
So this is PS5 Pro, so it's fidelity.
Goal of delivering almost fidelity-like graphics.
I want to look at the performance.
Has been achieved for a broad set of titles, including Marvel's Spider-Man 2 and Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart.
I think it's later when they do the performance
We can
RT.
see that PS5 Pro is close to doubling the power of PlayStation 5. Another way to compare the two consoles is to look at PS.
It's $450. Psycho says digital PS5 is $400. Do they still sell that, or is it only the digital PS5 Slim? Because I thought the Slim was a little more for some reason. I'm not sure. Digital PS5 is $449. Okay. Originally, when it first came out, it was $399. I think the Slim version is $449, and that replaced the originals, right? So this is going to be $240 or $250 more. So you have to ask yourself, is the added fidelity, because most of their games come with performance modes, right? So you have to ask yourself, the added fidelity to the performance mode, is it worth it for $250? And that's just going to be up to the individual gamer.
PS5 Pro versus performance mode on PS5.
Okay, this is what I wanted to look
both of which
at.
target 60 frames per second. What we see here is a difference in detail.
Okay, so this is what I'm talking about, right? So both of these are running at 60, okay? So you have the added fidelity on this side of the PS5 Pro, and then you have the traditional PS5 performance mode over here. You can see it's like slightly sharper on some of the things, like the resolution and the background. But like detail wise, like the game
PS5 Pro is much sharper and crisper
in
than
motion.
PS5.
Is it enough for me to spend
$250?
$250
Scene from Ratchet and Clank.
extra?
Distant details are much clearer.
For that, for me, for this aspect, it's a no, right? Like I don't necessarily care too much if those background alien fucking creatures in the stands are slightly blurrier if you zoom in on it.
And here we can see Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is noticeably higher resolution throughout the scene, including the trees and procedural
Yeah, but that's
cars.
going to be up to preference, right?
So overall, some remarkable improvement to the games. On PS5 Pro, we can see increased sharpness to the graphics or smoother and more responsive gameplay. This is the big three showing their value. As you've been seeing, machine learning via the PSSR library is being used quite broadly to add pixel detail and boost frame rate. But there are as many approaches as there are game engines. The increase in raw GPU power is being especially effective for Horizon Forbidden West.
Yo, Marty.
Apart from the detail boost, that extra graphics power is allowing for improvements to lighting and visual effects, as well as to the hair and the skin in cinematics.
Open up, guys. Jorv's orders.
Good enough for me.
Ray tracing is finding broad usage as well, particularly when the games are focused on higher frame rates. The faster hardware in PS5 Pro can make a real difference. Allowing Gran Turismo 7 to add ray
So this
trace
is one game
reflections
I was
between
really
the
looking
cars
forward
and
to
gameplay.
seeing. You can see that it has the ray tracing on track. It's going to be running at 60. So there's elements there. I wanted them to focus a little bit more on this game because it could be a showpiece type game, right? To really kind of show this stuff, but they did only spend a little bit of time on it. They just said, I think later, that there was going to be new modes come out for it for PS5. There's even like a 8K mode or whatever. But what I want to see is it really kind of highlighted all the little ins and outs of the improvements for GT7. But I'm also curious because this comes out later this year, and we know Ragnarok is the next game slated to come to PC, right? is GT7 going to end up coming to PC? And if it does, will it kind of coincide with the enhancements being delivered for PS5 Pro?
Continuing to support their targeted 60 frames per second. That boost in ray tracing is also delivering big wins for Hogwarts Legacy,
Now we're on a
allowing
third
not
party.
only for better reflections and a greater variety of reflective surfaces, but also for further realism in the casting of shadows. I hope you've enjoyed this run-through of the technology behind PlayStation 5 Pro. Simply put, it's the most powerful console we've ever built, and a worthy addition to the PS5 family. Let me wrap this up by giving you a quick look at a number of games running on the new console.
You'll never break a legend, 'cause they don't know we are. We're legendary.
Stand not included.
Close your eyes. It'll be worth it.
Okay.
Did I do it? Oh, what is this? What's with all the neon?
There's the Whopper. I'm curious about a lot of people's initial reactions when they saw this, right? When you saw this, after watching this whole thing, you're like, okay, all right, I'm in, right? Vertical stand sold separately. Oh, shit. Okay. All right. Okay. How much is it? How much is it? How much is it? And then you see this and it's like, oh. I'm just curious overall reactions to that. Now it is 2 terabyte, so I think if it was a 1 terabyte, you probably knock close to $100 off this price. But yeah, it's pretty pricey, you know, for a console just in general. It's something we talked about for a long time. Kind of like it's now for the enthusiast, right? The enthusiast. This is an enthusiast thing. This is not going to be for every PS5 gamer out there. It's going to be for some that decide that they want to go all in and have the best experience possible.
PlayStation.
Yeah, the whole stand separately thing is like kind of stupid. Like that's where you see like a little bit of just BS type stuff, you know? Like they could throw in the stand. How much do we think it actually costs them to make the stand? You know, a few bucks probably for a piece of plastic. And they won't throw in a stand on a $700 device. I mean, they could afford to put a stand in there, but they're just doing the math. Well, if we sell, you know, 10 million of these things over the next several years, you know, then, well, that's going to be $30 million or $40 million that we could have just saved. You know, nobody's going to care. You better stand just fine on like a Pringles lid or something. A lot of people probably going to make their own stands and shit for it. Yeah, you're right. So, like, overall, it's about what I expected. I didn't expect the $699 price tag with 2 terabytes. I thought they would try and have the price down a little bit more, maybe 650 with a little bit less storage. But they went all in on the storage with 2 terabytes. It's all digital. If you get everything for this thing, you get the stand, you get the disk drive, then you're paying like $810, right? So that would be like a comparison to have, if you're comparing console to console, the original PS5 came out and launched at $499 that has a disk drive and came with a stand, right? The PS5 Slim doesn't come with a stand. You gotta get that extra now. I think it's $550, maybe $500. I can't remember how much the PS5 Slim is that has the disk drive on it. But ultimately, you're looking at $150 more without the disk drive, without the stand. So $810 to $580. That's like $230 difference, roughly, or something like that. Like, I mean, you're asking a good amount different for this, right? Now I expected about a $200 difference versus price of like PS5 to PS5 Pro. That's just kind of like typical for when they do like these upgrades and stuff. Generally they're able to do price decreases beforehand, and this comes out closer to what the original pricing was, but that doesn't happen this generation. So now we're left with the high price tag. Jeff Keighley's already putting out there BRAP like inflation statistics out there to try and defend the price tag and all this kind of stuff, right? Which I thought was absolutely hilarious seeing Keighley do that kind of stuff, but it's typical as well. Now the question is am I going to buy this thing? And right now I haven't seen enough to get me excited for this, and it's mainly because what I was hoping for was the games to go along with it, of, hey, new games are coming that are going to take advantage of this, and they're going to be running at this, and it's going to be way better than anything else, and here's a look at those games, and also here's a look at some of our games coming out, right? But we didn't get any kind of showcase from them. We didn't get any kind of state of play thing. Nothing that actually revealed any new anything for them. And then the only rumored thing now that's coming is a state of play that's focused on third parties and indie games. So the question that we always had was, how are they going to market a PS5 Pro if they don't have a roadmap? And we expected them to deliver the roadmap with it. And that's, for me, the biggest disappointment here, because you're selling a console and your biggest benefit is that it plays your old games better. And without telling anybody about the exciting things to come. Now, then you look at, okay, well, what's the other benefit here for how it performs and the difference there? Well, a lot of the games they highlighted already have performance modes. I think the one that's going to be the most beneficiary is actually Hogwarts Legacy, which is a third-party game. But you have all the other first-party games that they highlighted, like The Last of Us. You had Spider-Man 2. You have Ratchet and Clank. You have all these other games. And for me, those are fine. Like, those games they look gorgeous. They have performance modes that look great, right? I'm completely happy with the way that those games look and perform. I don't need to buy something else to get the slight fidelity enhancement. Now, maybe if you're a fidelity snob and you like need every little bell and whistle, you want every puddle to be a little bit more reflective, or you want the extra little sharpness in the background. But most of those games have like 1440p 60 frames modes, and that I'm good with that. Like, I think it looks fantastic. I usually choose those modes on PS5 when I had my PS5, and I was selecting those modes on those kinds of games. When I played Ratchet, when I played the Miles Morales, they had that. The new Spider-Man, the remastered Spider-Man version, things like that. You know, they all had it. You know, 3 options. I think Returnal may have even had that. And I was completely happy with that. Actually, I've praised PlayStation numerous times on their first party about delivering those options for the gamers, and being critical more of Xbox for just saying, "Hey, we're fine with 30 at launch and we'll update it later." I never liked that. I think you should give the options, right? We've been on that from the get-go. But because of that also, I feel less justified that I need to get a PS5 Pro. The Captain Crunch says Demon Souls remake is already perfect on base PS5 60 frames. Yeah, that's what I'm saying is like, why do I need that for that extra little fidelity if I'm already really happy with the way the games look and perform? So it needs to be extra. And the biggest benefit I think you're going to see is from some of these third parties that are struggling to hit 60, right? The Hogwarts Legacies, the Final Fantasy 16s, right? So those kind of games that they're highlighting are going to take advantage of it and be able to hit the smoother frame rates and hit 60 more often, which makes it a smoother experience and still be able to keep the fidelity that they've been going for. But overall, does that make it justified to spend the extra money? I would say if I was only a PlayStation gamer, right? And that's where I played all of my third parties, and that's where I played all of my games, and that's where I played all of my just everything. If I played on PlayStation, that's where I played every game, right? I would feel justified with buying it, personally. But it would still be a tough pill to swallow at the price. Now, if I was a physical gamer and I bought one of these guys that are out there and they're always like, I buy all my games physical. And there's a lot of those in the PlayStation world that tweet about it and talk about it all the time. They're saying, I buy all my games physical. I buy all my games physical. I buy all my games physical, right? Well, you got to get a disc drive with this. But I'm hoping the regular disc drive that maybe they bought with a Slim, if you're upgrading from a Slim to this and you have that detachable disc drive, will that work, right? But also, what I'm curious about is how many of the Slim owners are going to upgrade. Because the Slim just came out, last year, right? So I think a majority of people that are going to upgrade are going to be PS5 owners or people that have just been waiting to dive into PS5 until the Pro came out. And you're going to see them trade in their consoles, spend $370 more probably to get this, plus have to buy a disc drive. Fuck, that's a big ask. Like, I think a PS5 trade-in value is, Psycho, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's like $320, right? For a PS5 disc. I think it's like $325 for a traditional PS5 based disc model. So if you trade that in, you've got to spend $374 plus you got to buy an $80 disc drive. And if you want to do it the right way and do vertical, then you also got to buy a $30 stand. So you're at $480 difference. What's 810 minus 325? My math is horrible. I'm sorry, guys. Whatever 810 minus 325 is. Will that justify it for you? I don't know. I will say this as well. I told you I was talking about this earlier too. I do think optimization wise and stuff that as a console overall, the PS5 Pro is going to be running the games the best out there. I mean, it's just hands down. They're going to be, most developers prioritize development on PS5 anyway. PS5, PS4, right? The PlayStation consoles. So they're going to still focus on optimizing for the base PS5. And then they're just going to provide extra fidelity and performance enhancements for the Pro. Right? So that's going to benefit the Pro because the Pro is going to be the most optimized, I think, out of everything. Out of everything that's out there, you're going to have the best options and optimization on the Pro. So if you are that, like, I want the best experience, whatever, then you're going to have to pay for it. and you're not gonna have to worry as much about some of these games and their performance and all that other kind of stuff. But you still don't have that exciting exclusive roadmap to look forward to. Big Blue Raven says $480 after 485. It's like, yeah, that is. I was thinking maybe be like $300, $200, $250, something like that originally when I was thinking about it. But yeah, that's a fuck, man. You're talking about getting 325 back now. If you can sell it on like secondhand market, maybe you're able to get 400 out there. But if you look at eBay right now, I'm curious. Like, okay, eBay prices. I'm going to look at sold for PS5's base model. What are they going for now? I mean, they're not going for scalper prices anymore. They've kind of rounded down now. PS5. Okay, so we'll go to sold. So and plus you also have like your selling fees and shit like that. $379 sold, a disc version pre-owned, has everything. $370, a digital sold for $230. $399. Somebody got $399 out of one. That's good. $329. They're selling for like the digital ones are only selling for in the twos, like $250. Shit. But yeah, the disc editions are selling around $350 to $390 roughly. Yeah, here's another $350, $349.99 pre-owned, free shipping. But there's selling cost in that too. So you imagine that maybe getting them at most like $320, $330 out of that at most. So that's around the same as what you're getting at GameStop. Yeah, that's around what you're getting at GameStop. So there's really no benefit of selling secondhand market as opposed to just selling it at GameStop right now. Like GameStop's actually giving a fair market used value for a PS5 base. So yeah, for a 485 price difference to get basically the same equivalent of options. Like you have the disc, you have everything, right? If you're willing to forego the disc, if you have a lot of physical discs, that means you need to rebuy your games. I don't think you're willing to do that. It's cheaper to buy the disc drive, right? But like overall, just man, even if you don't include the disc drive, it's still $400, $405. Even if you don't include the stand, that's still $350. Or wait, no, my math is $370 difference roughly. That's a big ask for upgrading. And is it worth it for you for the extra reflections in the puddles and the slightly better resolution? Some of you, what it's going to be. Some of it's not. For the first party games, it's not for me, but more so for the third party. That's why I'm saying, like, if this was my only place to play and that was all in on PlayStation, that's just all I cared about, I think it would be more likely I would be willing to get it. Like I said, if this was Xbox, because Xbox is where I play most of my games and stuff, and I would be more likely to get it. I would. But right now, it's a big ask. I'm not including tax because tax rates are going to be different depending on where you live. Even in the states, like every state has different sales tax and shit, So it just depends on where you live with the tax, and that's going to be like the same thing everywhere, kind of. It's a given. But yeah, man, I don't like the presentation is kind of bothered me more than anything. I think like having some games to really showcase this thing with that are new and exciting would have been a bigger move. Would have been a better move. But people have already played all the games that they're highlighting here. Like, you're going to sell all these people on these single player games to like buy new hardware to go replay single player games. And even the list that came out with games that are taking advantage of it, the PS5 Pro enhancements, there was a list that came out, and I mean, it just was mostly like older stuff. There was not a list of like, hey, these new up and coming amazing games, except for Assassin's Creed Shadows, right? Which don't know exactly how it's going to take advantage of it. But also, Assassin's Creed games traditionally also have a very good looking performance mode. I think Valhalla, even at launch, was running at a extremely smooth 60 frames per second with great resolution. I don't know if it was 4K 60, but I remember playing Valhalla at launch roughly around 2020, and I was like, wow, this huge, massive open world game runs like this? It's fucking crazy. Far Cry 6, which is huge, I think it was like around 4K 60 also. So I'm going to look for this list real quick. I know Wario64 posted it. I think it's in our DMs. Give me a second. Oh yeah, there's a whole other side to this whole thing that I want to talk about. And we're going to get there. But the whole Xbox conversation that happened today. Definitely some interesting conversations to have regarding Xbox. Man, where is Wario's post? Man, that dude posts so much. It's like every 30 minutes there's a new post. Bear with me. Come on. Really? Okay. All right, here we go. Games that will have I need to bookmark this. Games that will have PS5 Pro support. Here's the list. Alan Wake 2. Assassin's Creed Shadows. Alan Wake 2, does it already have a performance mode? Has anybody played Alan Wake 2? What's up, Royal? How's it going? I actually own it and haven't launched it yet. It's crazy. I bought it close to launch, and for some reason, I haven't even like booted the game up. It was one of those games that we had planned, me and Kate, to kind of play through like at night, and she kind of watch and stuff, and we kind of do that. So Jax82 says yes. Okay, so I'm sure it looks gorgeous. But anyway, so yes, it does have performance mode. Okay. Assassin's Creed Shadows is the new game, right? Demon Souls already has performance mode, I believe, right? So Dragon's Dogma 2, this is one that I think will take advantage of it, will be good, because this is one that struggles a little bit with performance, right? Again, talking about the third parties that have opted for more fidelity and bigger worlds and all these other kind of things that have struggled with the performance and don't have so again, not first party stuff, but the third party stuff. This is why I'm saying, if you're like, this is the only place you play is on PlayStation, it might be more worth it for you. Yeah, Klepto dude says I see that Digital Foundry talk about the Hogwarts footage they showed was 30 frames. I noticed that during it, but I didn't want to say anything because, like, in case I'm wrong, I don't want to be like, oh, that's 30 frames, because I'm not a fucking tech guy. But when it was running, it looked considerably more choppy than the other games that they were showing at 60. And I'm like, they're showcasing that, but what they're showcasing is the added fidelity of the ray tracing and all the other kind of stuff that they're adding in there. What I'm hoping is that was just that option, and the Hogwarts Legacy on PS5 Pro actually has another option that is a smoother performance, because that was one thing that game also struggled with. But it was interesting. I noticed that as well, Klepto, and I was curious what Digital Foundry had to say about it. But Dragon's Dogma 2 is one I think it will be a good one that will, hey, this is going to be on console probably the best place to play Dragon's Dogma 2, right? On console, Um, Hogwarts Legacy, maybe. We'll see what they do with that one. You see, they got games like Horizon Forbidden West. They got GT7, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth already. I know that Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 1 already had good performance. So I don't know if Rebirth does, but I think it probably had the multiple options like Part 1 did. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, chat. Spider-Man 2 already has the performance mode options and stuff. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart already has all those options. Crew Motorfest, who gives a fuck? Let's just be honest. First Ascendant, awesome. You know, I think that could use it a little bit. The PC version, it looks, I think, better considerably than the console version on First Ascendant. But performance has still been fine on consoles. So you're getting a little bit more fidelity probably with that at 60. Last of Us Part 2 remastered. Yeah, that would already look great. I don't need, see, these are the games, like, I don't need to buy a PS5 Pro for The Last of Us 2 remastered. I don't need to buy a PS5 Pro for Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. I don't need to buy a PS5 Pro for Spider-Man 2. For GT7 even. Depending on what they show. I'm curious to see what they did, but it wasn't enough. Like the ray tracing and the car reflections isn't enough to sell me that I need to own the PS5 Pro for that, right? Any of the first party stuff here really at all, because they already have good performance and look good. But it's these other games, right? It's the games that we know have struggled a little bit on this generation from the third party developers. And that's where it's like, okay, I think the games are actually going to run really well. Because they're optimized already, or they will be optimized as well for new games that come out for the PS5. So whenever they optimize for the lower end spec, and then, oh, here's the extra power we get for the Pro, you know, you're going to get the best experience that way, and it's probably going to be very smooth and good. So ultimately, if you're looking for the best console experience to play games, and you're all in on console and that's all you do, I can see you being justified to spend the money. I really can. If all I had was a Series X, and that's the only place I played, and that's all I cared about, that's where I played every third party game, and that's where I played every first party, everything I played was just on one console in my living room or my couch, and I'm a console gamer, I would buy the Xbox if it was like this. I would buy the upgrade. But PlayStation just doesn't have the games for me. Lady Foxfire with the $10 super chat. Shout out to Lady Foxfire. Hope you're doing well. Says, hi, bro. I'm a physical collector and I play on Xbox. And I love Game Pass. But if they were charging $780 plus, I would drag them so hard as well. I've seen a lot of physical collectors really upset today. That's the thing is the physical stuff, because like you're gonna have to spend another $80 for the disc tray. And the PlayStation gamers traditionally also more so than Xbox gamers have been a little bit more attached to physical. I understand you're Xbox, but you're also physical. So for you, right, you would be, if you were to look for the best Xbox Series X to get, you'd be looking at the 2 terabyte, maybe, or even the 1 terabyte Series X with the disk drive, right? PS5 base had disk drive, stand, everything included at $499. This has none of that included at $699. So you're $810 all in for everything. And if you're a disc collector like you're going to have to spend the $80 for that disc drive. Neo GameSpark says, I'm sorry I'm not broke, crowd working overtime to justify it. Yeah, here's the thing, like, it's an enthusiast thing, right? So it's not necessarily made to be for everybody. It's for those people that want all the bells and whistles. I don't think this is replacing the PS5. But it is costly. It's gonna be for a smaller amount of people, right? I just find it interesting that they didn't go out and market it harder with new games. Like, where the fuck are the games? And that's what, if Xbox had the same thing, right? I imagine that Xbox had this huge reveal today of like Xbox Series Pro, right? And they did the same thing. Oh my God, they would be fucking crucified without having a roadmap of games. The thing is about Xbox, we know they have the roadmap. Like they have Avowed and Fable and South of Midnight and Doom the Dark Ages and Call of Duty and all these games to showcase it with, and the advantages you're going to get for the first party games and roadmap. And then they can talk about Game Pass and the value of that added into everything. And everybody's like, oh my God, okay, this is a great value and all that kind of stuff. But Xbox is like, okay, we're just content being here. We're okay having some of our games be 30 frames at launch. We're okay with that. We're okay with the Series S. And, you know, it's not necessarily the most exciting thing for some people, but at least we got the games and people are going to be playing them, even if we put them other places. And it's just like two different strategies. Like PlayStation's going out there saying, this is the best, right? And you're going to fucking pay for it. And we don't even have to show any new games. You get what you get. And it's like, okay, yeah, let's go, Mark. But it's just weird that nobody's highlighting as much the fact that there's no fucking games. Old games. They're only focusing on old games. Where's the showcase? Where's the hopes and dreams? Where's the, hey, if you buy this crazy ass expensive console, here's what you're going to have to look forward to in the future. There's none of that here. So I don't know if it was for me for PlayStation, because the way that they're already optimized for their first party roadmap or for their first party games that they have had, I'd probably just get the fucking PS5 base version. Yeah, like you need that extra power to play Astrobot, Bob says. Shout out to Game Pass Dad. Games Neo says we got Concord. Hey, did they mention any of the enhancements coming out for Concord? I'm curious. Did they mention any enhancements coming out for Concord? Are they going to turn it back on? That's what the PS5 Pro is going to do for you. You actually get to play it again. Yeah, I'm okay like with an enthusiast higher end expensive console if it's justified. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't, like the regular PS5 is still going to be optimized for, it's going to be the most popular. It's going to be like the mainstay PS5, I think. And this is going to be for the 10% of the gamers that want to go all in on this thing and are like so invested, maybe. Is kind of what it's going to be. It's not going to be like last gen where the PS4 Pro kind of replaced the PS4. Where in the Xbox One X kind of replaced the Xbox One. You know, it's not going to be like that. This is going to be like, hey, you're extra special. You're extra, have extra money to blow. You're going to get the best performance on these games over anybody else, right? Now, you have to decide as a consumer how much you like getting fucked. And if you like getting fucked a lot, you go for it, you know? And some of us do. Like, you could go all in on this thing. You could just be ultra happy. But yeah, you know what? I'm living the dream here, you know? It's okay. They got my money, and I'm happy. I'm playing my games the best they possibly can be played, and that's all I like the game on, and it's okay that they're just absolutely taking advantage of me because I'm loving the ecosystem. And that's who they're selling this thing to, right? What I did see was a lot of people saying like, well, this is what happens when Xbox does kind of leaves the console space. The Xbox has not left the console space. As far as you can go online right now and you can buy a Series S or you can buy a Series X, right? You can even get the non-sparkly version that everybody's comparing the PS5 Pro to for some reason. You can get the Series X 1 terabyte version. I believe it's still $499, maybe it's $450. I'm not sure what, or $550. I'm not sure what the price is right now. But yeah, you can still get that. You can get the Series S. They have a lot of games coming out, and they also have new hardware coming in the future. So I think a lot of people are saying that because Xbox is putting some of their games on PlayStation, it's just like allowing PlayStation to do this. PlayStation was going to do this shit anyway. You honestly think because Xbox is putting Indiana Jones on PS5 Pro, they're like, well, we might be able to get $100 more for the PS5 Pro now. Yeah, they're not concerned with that. They just wanted to charge as much as they possibly can. They've been doing it this whole generation. They did it with the PS Portal. They did it at crazy ass price for the PSVR. And they have a crazy ass price for well, not crazy ass price, but they just upped the DualSense price. They also had taken things away from their consoles when they came out with the new versions for them, like the stand and stuff like that. Like overall, they've been doing this the entire generation. It's not because of Xbox. Like this is just what PlayStation's doing. They've already had the market lead when this generation started. Xbox has been putting out games now. They have a roadmap of games to look forward to in the future. They have good hardware out there. But the narrative from the gamers is like Xbox doesn't matter because they put a game here and there on the PlayStation. Even if they put all the games on the PlayStation, you can still decide that you want to play on Xbox. That's up to a personal preference for you. And right now, does the value, the more expensiveness entice you to PlayStation, or is Xbox's a little bit better value entice you to Xbox? That's still competition in the space. And that's something I saw also a lot of people highlighting today, being like, oh, well, actually, this in a way makes Xbox seem a little bit more attractive. So that's why there's still that competition there. PlayStation, depending on what they do, we're gonna see how the market responds and reacts and how many people buy this thing at that price. Overall, what does Xbox do? I saw one of the stupidest comments, and this one actually came from Destin, saying that Xbox, what they should do now is they should announce the handheld. Well, that part I agree with. That would be crazy if they went ahead and did that. But he's like, at $249. Well, whoa. You want Xbox to launch a handheld at $249? What the fuck do you want this thing to be? Like, I don't want a $249 handheld. That thing is going to be a piece of shit. $249? That's like $150 worse than the Switch OLED. Fuck no, I don't want that. I want, like, if they release a handheld that's capable for this generation, it's probably gonna be $400 or $500. You know, so, but if they did that, that's still okay. If let's say they have a handheld at $400, right? Come out, and then they have a dock that's like $100 or something, you know, then that's like, okay, that's intriguing for me because you're getting console level like graphics and it fits this generation and you can kind of pick it up and take it around with you and do all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that would be a crazy cool thing to see, but I don't think like $249 is, I mean, you're talking about a cloud only device at that point, and that's not what I think any of us want. I don't think any of us are asking for a cloud only Xbox. Even in a handheld, I think if we want a handheld, we want it to be able to play the games natively, right? Lady Foxfire says, yeah, we need to keep that competition going. Xbox is still in the console space. People act like they're out of it already. When there's already announcements for new hardware coming, they talk about the new hardware actually more than PlayStation has. And PlayStation has this Pro that's just really only for a small percentage of gamers. Like, it's for the enthusiasts that I think, yeah, does it have a right to exist? Maybe. You know, it's just up to the person to justify if it's worth it for you or not. If Xbox did the same thing, would I potentially buy it? Maybe, depending on the games. Like, if it ran Avowed at 4K 60 with all the bells and whistles insanely at launch and every game better, and Fable and Perfect Dark and all this huge roadmap, maybe, but I have the fucking roadmap to look forward to justify that. Like, this is what was missing, is that fucking roadmap. And that's the part of the competition everybody keeps missing, is like, you know, PlayStation is, you know, so ahead, and, you know, this is what happens when there's no competition in the console space. It's focusing again on hardware. What about the fucking games? Like, what about the games? What has happened with PlayStation and the games? Yes, we got Astrobot. They didn't even fucking mention it with this PS5 Pro. Really? You don't need a PS5 Pro to play Astrobot. They released a game less than a month ago. It's already gone. They shut it down. Still nobody is talking about this. They had probably overall the worst first party year in their history for game releases from first party studios. And they have yet to reveal any amazing stuff for next year from their first party. Instead, it's focusing on hardwares and ways to make more money out of the enthusiast gamers that are just all in on PlayStation, but thinking about the games. And on Xbox, what has been the criticism for all those years where people said that Xbox is the worst platform to play on, all this other stuff? It was always about the games. Remember the catchphrase, Xbox has no games. Xbox has no games. Xbox has no games. That's what people said forever. And you know what? They had only a few studios. They've added all these studios. They've added all this stuff. They're all launching a Game Pass day and date. They're launching on a 2-tier system with Series S and Series X. Actually, 3-tier if you count PC, and then even 4 if you count cloud. They're giving you cross progression, cross save, all this other kind of stuff. You talk about competition. That is something that Xbox is doing. Why? How come the gamers on the other side aren't looking at that and saying, that is something that we should ask for. That is something that we should want. We should want a roadmap of first-party games coming out over the years. We should want PlayStation to compete more in that. And we should want all of these things. Instead, it's like, hey, look what did they do? Like, what did they do for us today? They have a game that finally came out it's really good. Everything else this year kind of just whatever. And then they have a PS5 Pro. Everybody forgets about Concord instantly. I am actually pleased with the reactions I saw online for the most part from gamers in general today on the pricing for the PS5 Pro, because people are actually starting to open their eyes a little bit to PlayStation taking advantage of it. But it's not Xbox's fault. It's not Xbox's fault that they're doing this. It's your fault. It's your fault for accepting all this shit that PlayStation keeps doing and buying their BS while criticizing every move that Xbox makes when they're doing more for the consumer and the gamer. If you keep eating shit, you're going to get sick. They are infecting you in your minds over and over and over again with this bullshit. And it just keeps happening, man. It's like, say one thing, do another. Say another thing, do another. Say another thing, then do another. This has been repeated this whole generation. We believe in first-party action-adventure third-person games. Well, where the fuck are they? That's what they just said recently. They had opportunity to even showcase it with a brand new hardware announcement, and they didn't even show any of that stuff. Where are those games? Where's the roadmap of the games that they say their gamers actually care about? They don't exist right now. They had an actual hardware announcement with no fucking games to show going forward for it. Where is the conversation about that? Instead, people would rather look at it and be like, well, this is Xbox's fault for not giving us enough competition. Well, how about you actually look at what Xbox is offering and say, hey, that actually is a good value. I'm interested in it, and go buy it and look at that and be invested in that ecosystem because they're giving you more. But you just can't fathom doing that. You just can't fathom it because, oh, it's not cool, right? Oh, I've heard for so long. It's just, why would I need to? Why should I do that? No, get that shit out of your head. Actually, open your eyes and look at what's the roadmaps that are there, the hardware that's there, the options that are there, the ecosystem that's there. And to be honest with you, if Xbox had a more powerful console like that, I would feel more justified in investing in it because I'm more attracted to the ecosystem and all the other value they're giving me as a consumer. This other thing with the PS5 is just an additive, another way of ripping you off. First platform to do $70 games. Don't put their games in PS Plus, even though they're charging the same amount. Can't figure out how to release multiplayer games. Shut down a multiplayer game 2 weeks after launch because it failed to meet their expectations. We're going to still charge you more. We're still going to charge you more. We're still going to charge you more. Hey, $5 more for the controllers now. Still going to charge you more. It's not Xbox's fault for that. It's everybody's fault for buying all this bullshit. It is. You just got to get the head out of the ass and look around a little bit. And you'll actually see the games that are coming out and what's there. Ultimately, is there games for everybody on both platforms? Yeah, there's going to be options for everybody on both platforms. Is there going to be some games on certain platforms that you like more than others? Yes, and this is going to be up to you as a consumer to decide what games are going to launch where and how to play. But like, it's just like every single thing that Xbox does gets like ultra criticized, while PlayStation always gets this kind of free pass and praise or extra level of hyping up and propped up from games media and from the casuals that just aren't even paying attention, to be honest with you. And also shady deals in the background. So ultimately, whose fault is it? I don't know. I mean, Microsoft could obviously be more aggressive. Xbox could be more aggressive. But yeah, games wise, right now, if I'm looking at it, I'm picking Xbox every fucking day of the week. To get all those games coming to Game Pass day and date. So for those reasons, right now, I'm not sold on a PS5 Pro. I didn't see enough justification for it. But we'll see. Maybe they have more to show. Maybe they have more things to announce. Maybe they have more things to showcase from the third parties, because right now that's the only attractive thing about the Pro. And we'll see how they do. Yeah, Prescreen said increasing PlayStation Plus by 50%. PlayStation Hardcore might not have 700. It just depends on the gamer. I think it's only going to be for like a smaller percentage of the gamers anyway. It's not replacing the PS5. It's just an added option, right? Prince Green says, I can't make a handheld cheaper than 500 because it have to be more powerful than the Steam Deck and the ROG. If they come out with a handheld anytime in the next year or so, or it would probably be more comparable to a Series S, power-wise. Because then you'd just be able to spec it games-wise. All the games that launched this generation would be playable on the handheld, and that would last a good couple years, 3 years into the next gen. And then you have your upgrade for the handheld at that point. So I don't know how much it costs to make a handheld and be able to sell it and not take a bath on that device. But I think Series S level is all you need to get to. The Jastrom says, Mav, do you think we'll get that new Xbox haptic controller with Indiana Jones release? I don't know. I know Phil's been kind of like hinting that they want to do that. It's possible, because it's going to be interesting seeing Indiana Jones on PlayStation, and they're going to be able to say, hey, this is the best place to play Indiana Jones because it's going to have PS5 Pro enhancements on it, and also we got the haptic feedback on it for the controller, and you know they're probably going to say that in some form or fashion. And I think there's also a requirement for the new games to support it, even though they didn't highlight. The only new game they highlighted was Assassin's Creed Shadows, which was interesting. So I think maybe there'll be more that they mention. So is it a requirement to support it? Is it not? That was something that was reported, but I don't know if it's true now. So we'll see. Let's see here. What else you guys got to say? Buzz says, I hope it fails me honest miserably. This here sets the tone of what's acceptable for next-gen consoles. It can only go up. The console space is turning into the enthusiast space, man. Like, you got your PC gaming out there, you got your mobile gaming, and you got your console gaming. The companies are more and more less interested in taking a loss on the hardware. They have their set consumer base. They understand that that market is not really growing. They've been selling to ultimately the same amount of consumers for multiple generations now, and they're saying like this is what we're going to do, and we're going to take advantage of that consumer base as much as possible. Treat them like second class citizens for the most part, and while all the developers keep giving the best value for PC, all the publishers are afraid of PC gamers because PC gamers speak up for everything. PC gamers get the best end of usually everything, right? Console gamers are kind of treated like, hey, you're the dummies. You're the ones that are willing to spend the extra. So we're going to charge you the extra. And that's just what these companies have kind of went to. And that in that market is going to be kind of what it is. And that's what, and it's Xbox, it's going to be PlayStation and Nintendo. They're all going to take advantage of us as console gamers. And milk us for what we can, because the only way to grow the console market is not by numbers. It's just based on dollars. So that's what's happening. And it's not Microsoft's fault. It's not Nintendo's fault. PlayStation's in an interesting situation with their market position. But ultimately it's just greed. Like they could be ultra competitive and try and give the best value possible and all that kind of stuff, but I mean it's just not what they're interested in on console anymore. They're just interested in hey, the console space is not going to grow. We're going to make it an enthusiast place to play, and we're going to have different tier options. We're going to make profit on these machines. That's ultimately what we saw it going into. Like if you listen to some of our earlier conversations on this channel, based on some of the comments that were made early on, but even before this generation launched, of what was going to happen with the future of gaming, we kind of saw this. Like it was going to be more upgrades in between generations. There's going to be more pricing, and there's going to be different options. Is going to start to happen. You're going to have more of a high end versus low end specs, and you're going to have the enthusiasts are going to be asked to pay a lot. It makes it interesting for developers. I don't know what's going to happen overall for developers, but like, this is just what's happening. It was interesting that Xbox decided not to do that this generation and advance of making next generation happen probably sooner. So they are supposedly all in on the next gen. We'll see how much of a power advantage PlayStation has with marketing, because I think overall the amount of gamers that are going to buy this isn't going to be substantial. So ultimately what this is going to do for PlayStation is increase their brand power again, being able to say that these games play better, even though it's only a small percentage of gamers are going to be able to actually do that, right? So Xbox 2026, do they hit that? 2027? Well, GTA 6 actually, if GTA 6 actually hits 60 frames on a PS5 Pro, that'll be a big deal. I don't know if it will or not. I don't know if there's enough advantage there to do that versus other consoles. We'll see what happens there. It's gonna be interesting stuff to keep an eye on, man. But like right now, potential GTA 6 could be delayed to 2026 anyway. Brett Bingham says Sony said they were wanting the PS5 Pro to be as profitable as the base PS5. What did ponies expect? Yeah. Psycho says, I see Sony discounting the $500 model and force their consumers to the digital console and buy the disc drive if they want to play physical. Discounting the $500 like physical version to get rid of it? Maybe. Nicholas says, agree, it's more of a marketing device in the end. Yeah, it's definitely more of a market. It's an enthusiast device and a marketing device. The enthusiasts that want to have all the bells and whistles are gonna buy it and have a great experience with it. Probably. I don't think it's going to be a bad experience on the PS5 Pro. I think it's going to be a good experience. It's just up to the gamer if it's worth it for them or not. And it's not meant to replace the PS5. It's meant to be that extra level of enthusiast machine if you want it, right? And that's what they're seeing it as. The question is like, is it worth it at that point for the developers to really go all in on it? I mean, I think it'll be easier for them to just kind of like hey, we're going to up this, and kind of, because they're optimizing mostly for the base PS5 first, but the extra showpiece of like, hey, the PS5 Pro, because you'll have all the Digital Foundry things and all this stuff. Oh, look how this performs on the Pro. Look how this performs in the PS5 Pro. And then you'll have your Xbox Series X versus PS5, right? But like that extra little marketing they're going to be able to keep doing this generation with like the PS5 Pro is going to just keep establishing in people's minds about PlayStation is the best place to play these games. And, you know, if you are the enthusiast and you do spend the money, then that will probably be a true statement. But you got to pay for it. Just like if you want the true best experience is on PC, you got to pay for it, right? I built my PC last year. I got a hell of a deal, honestly. I got a 7900 XT. I have a Intel 13700K CPU. I have 32 gigabytes of RAM. It's not the best. I mean, it's not like the best machine out there by far. But it cost me like $17.50 for the PC itself, and then I got the monitor and the other stuff. But overall, I think it did really well for getting and customizing this PC with as good a deals as you could find and getting decent components. And guess what? It's going to run games a hell of a lot better than the PS5 Pro. It's going to run games a hell of a lot better than it already does run games a hell of a lot better than the Series X, PS5, and I'm good on that for a few years until next generation comes out. That's going to be when consoles potentially could surpass it. Even then, it'll be close. And that was for like 17, like I said, 17 from scratch on this PC, 1750, I think. But you know, that's a lot more than 700, right? That's a lot more than 700. So if you're a console gamer and you want the best experience, you can get 700 as a console gamer and have the best experience as on console. It just depends on if it's worth it for you. Danny Passion official says, what if Xbox announces the next console this year at the VGA for holiday 2025? See, a lot of people are asking that, but like, there's no way that I don't think that the next gen console comes out in 2025. I think the next gen console is at earliest 2026, and it might be 2027. So if we get an announcement for it, it'd probably be in 2025. But because Xbox has already been hinting at next gen hardware, and hardware in general, because they keep using the word hardware, there could be that. What I foresee it would be the best option for a handheld would be to come out before next gen and cross the generation gap. It'd be this generation machine that would be supported for years to come into the next generation, just like the Series S and X will. And then you can have an upgrade on it every 4 or 5 years. I think handhelds in general should be upgraded more frequently anyway than like traditional consoles. So if you came out with a handheld either this holiday or next year, early next year or something like that, you could get a good 5-year life out of that before feeling like you need to upgrade when next generation games stop supporting this generation, right? That's what I think the best, because you're going to get the best bang for your buck on performance for a device like that. Because if you wait and do a handheld at the launch of next generation that's supposed to support the next generation, the entire generation, you're talking about a much more expensive handheld device, unless it's a potato that's going to cause problems later. People already complain about the Series S some. I don't think it's an issue, but imagine if the Series S was even less powerful as a handheld device, and that was the handicap for this entire generation. Like, you even have more complaints. So I think it's cross-generational is the best way, because you're not limiting anything. You're just saying, okay, well, this is like the same as the Series S, kind of. So all the games that can run on a Series S can also run on this handheld. That's the way I would do it. You'd even like call it a handheld S or some Xbox S boy. I don't fucking know. Danny Patch says, I think Xbox won't follow the traditional steps of releasing consoles right next to Sony. Yeah, and the question is, when does Sony launch theirs? I mean, if they have their PS5 Pro this holiday, I mean, they did 2 or 3 years, they could still launch their next generation. There'd be nothing weird about that. That's kind of what they did last gen. It's gonna be interesting seeing the marketing on third parties for the next couple years. If Xbox does not have another console that is more powerful until 2026, 2027, the next couple years on the third parties is going to be very, very interesting. Because all of them are going to be marketed with PS5 Pro enhancements. Is that enough to sell people on the $700 PS5 Pro? I don't know. But again, like Assassin's Creed Shadows, I think Xbox has a marketing on that, but it's going to have a better performance option on a PS5 Pro than Xbox has to offer. So, marketing wise, what's going to pay off? Because there'll be videos showcasing probably from Digital Foundry to the others, like the benefits that the PS5 Pro has over the Xbox and PS5 version for Assassin's Creed Shadows. But it's going to be more and more interesting every year for third parties. Even despite the price, even if only 5 million people end up buying this thing, right? It still has that impact with the brand and the marketing. And that's the aspect was like, I would buy an enthusiast Xbox that runs all the games better. They're talking about Avowed running at 30 frames, potentially at launch. Starfield ran at 30 at launch. Redfall launched had as 30 at launch. If that wasn't even a concern, and like, hey, on a console, you're gonna get all the bells and whistles, and probably have like a close to 4K 60 experience on every first party game that comes out. For me, that's like, hey, I'm all in on that because that's my primary place I play. But I don't know. I don't think it's for most gamers, right? So, but that's okay. Still got the traditional PS5 out there. Still got the Series X. Still got the Series S. It's just not going to have a huge market. Brett Brigham says, makes sense. By the way, I'm super happy that Xbox is not doing making a mid-gen refresh. Mid-gen refresh seems scammy. I'm for it if it's justified. But like for me, like part of it to have the justification is the games. And to rely only on the third parties is kind of weird. That's what PlayStation's missing. And we that was a big speculation for a long time. Even on our channels, we were like, "Hey, if PlayStation has their whole PS5 thing, like, is that when they're finally going to do their big showcase and have their hopes and dreams and lay out the roadmap for the next couple years? Is that when they're going to finally do it? Nope. Guess not. They still didn't do it. Their showcase, the biggest showcase they had and recently was when the one that they had Concord and Fair Games and all that stuff, and everybody hated it. Everybody's like, this was the worst showcase we've ever seen from Sony, and the worst showcase maybe for a first-party publisher as an actual showcase in a long-ass time. Concord came out and it completely flopped. We've yet to see anything more from Fair Games. And ultimately, we don't know what's going on with PlayStation, like, besides hardware. So, anyway, it's been interesting. I'm curious in the comments after the stream. Are you going to buy a PS5 Pro? Are you interested in it day one? Are you going to pre-order it? Are you going to battle the bots? Or are you going to wait and see? For me, I'm on the wait and see approach because I want the games, right? I want to see the games. I need to see actual visual improvement enough to justify. And right now, for the price difference, what we talked about before doing the math, for everything, $480 price difference or upgrade price Fuck, that's a big ask. Brett Brigham says, I am confident Gen 10 Xbox is releasing in 2026, but for Fonz seems to think 2027 for some weird reason. Yeah, Fonz keeps saying 2027. I don't know why. I think it's what he's saying he's hearing. I don't know what that means. I don't know who he's hearing it from, but he keeps saying that. He's pretty adamant on it. I've seen a couple other people say the same thing. I think they need to hit 2026. I'm more confident in 2026, especially with PlayStation having this now. I mean, I'm saying Xbox, you get some hardware out sooner than later would be the best thing, because otherwise you're just going to keep the same track, even with the games coming out next year, even with Fable, Doom, South of Midnight, Avowed, all hitting next year. Like, you see what happens with the overall perception and games media and takes that people have. It's just like the Xbox games just don't matter for some reason. They just don't. They don't matter to them. Even if they're great games, they get criticized, they get nitpicked, picked apart, or just completely ignored for some reason. And ultimately, you have a huge audience that's playing these games. You have overall good reception for a lot of these games, but they're not what matter to those people that spread the biggest message, right? And I think we'll see it again later this year at the Game Awards and all that kind of stuff. You're going to see, even though Xbox has a good year, has a lot of things, and had amazing games hitting Game Pass and even more games coming out. Still have more games in the pipeline for this year for sure. And I think you're going to see just overall like the Nintendo and PlayStation praise. And you're going to see the PS5 Pro talk and how it's better than everything else. It's just part of the marketing and what they've done well. But, I don't blame Xbox for all that. I think that they could be more aggressive, but ultimately, like, the value's there, the games are there. It's up for people to actually start paying attention to it as well, right? Buzz says, I'd upgrade the box too. I'm on that B all day. It's where my subscriptions are and where my trophy room is at. 18 years of commitment to achievements. Yeah, like, if I'm trying to just be honest about it as perspective wise, like, as an Xbox gamer, if all my games performed better on a device and I could afford to play it, then I would consider getting it, right? Especially if I have games to look forward to, they're going to take advantage of it. So yeah, if this was Xbox, I would probably be more interested in it. But right now, without the games that I would be excited to look forward to on PlayStation, it doesn't excite me. And I'm not going to start buying third-party games on PlayStation unless there's enough of a huge difference, right? Because I got PC, I can buy a third-party on PC. I just don't. I'm not going to jump ship to PlayStation. I'm not interested in that way. It's my way. PlayStation is my machine to play their exclusives that I'm interested in. And for me right now, there's just nothing there to justify the price difference. But if it was your only place to play, and that's where you play all your third parties and all that kind of stuff, I could completely see being justified for it. It's just up to the gamer. And there's probably only a small percentage of those that are out there that are going to do that. So, anyway, everybody, this has been fun. Overall impressions, is it justified? What do you like about it? We're in a new day and age of enthusiast consoles, and man, Sony is taking advantage of it. The price is crazy, but we'll see. We'll see what else they do, and hopefully they have some fucking games to announce at some point. Hopefully they have that. Hopefully, because right now there's nothing. But anyway, everybody, I hope you have a good one. Thanks for watching tonight, and we'll be back Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time for PM in the PM, and I hope you have a good one. Peace out. Bye.